Hello and welcome to another episode of the APSCC webinar series. I am Blaine Curcio, Senior Affiliate Consultant at Euroconsult, and today I'm very happy to be interviewing Mr. Huang Baozhong, Executive Vice President of APT Satellite based in Hong Kong. So good morning, Mr. Huang, and welcome to the APSCC webinar series.
Good morning, Blaine. I'm very pleased to be invited again by APSCC. And a long time no see due to the pandemic, but it seems that everybody is struggling out of the difficulties now. So probably we can meet very soon.
I hope so, yeah. And I've been back in Hong Kong for a few weeks, so we'll have to get the chance. So before getting into the interview, I just want to first congratulate APT Satellite on your 30th birthday this year. It's a big year for you guys, I think. So it's been an impressive 3 decades of growth. So congratulations, started in 1992, and here we are 30 years later. It's been a great time, I suppose. So any highlights from you on 30 years before we get started, or shall we just move into the questions?
Okay, now, yes, we are also very happy that we are now 30 years old. And during the last 30 years, we are growing very well from scratch to the present 5 satellite fleets. And we have demonstrated robust growth during the last decade. Although we are facing great difficulties, but the good signs is coming out, and we will talk about it later.
Definitely. And so looking into a little bit the 5 satellite fleet that you just mentioned, so I think the newest satellite that you've launched, APSCC, which I believe you kind of cooperate with APT Mobile Satcom in Shenzhen. This is a very interesting satellite, your largest satellite, I believe, quite some, maybe 50 gigabits per second, and focused on these very fast growing mobility markets in Asia Pacific. So could you tell us a little bit more about APSCC and some of the markets that you're targeting? Yeah, I'd be very interested to hear.
Yeah. The APSCC is a very successful satellite, both in terms of the from the satellite engineering side. It's already in operation after some in-orbit tests, and now they are growing their business and also quite fast for domestic and international customers. Probably you know very well that the APSCC is a dedicated mobility service focused satellite. And originally it is targeting the IFC market and the maritime service. So, and so far they are picking up their business quickly. In terms of IFC, the Panasonic is still the largest the customer, and followed by others. And in the maritime service, they provide a variety of services to different customers, including the fast-growing fishing ship. So I believe everything that could be done through a mobile satellite can be undertaken by APSCC. So I'm very, very confident with the future of APSCC.
And I guess thinking about it, it should be one of the largest satellites in Asia, I think, in terms of the total throughput, or maybe the largest right now. But anyway, it's a big satellite. Yeah.
Yeah, it is a big satellite. Well,
I guess
you know that several other new project is coming. Very soon there will be several other HTS. But certainly during the design feature of this satellite, I believe this satellite will be a very successful, very competitive, both domestically and internationally.
And I guess if we look a little bit more specifically at these 2 main mobility verticals, so IFC and maritime, I think one of the differences that I see is that in the IFC market, it's very consolidated. You have a few big service providers, Panasonic, as you mentioned, and then there's a few others. And on the maritime side, it seems much more fragmented. You have a lot of smaller maritime satcom service providers, especially, I guess, in China, but also in the kind of Southeast Asia region. I think it's less consolidated. Do you see the same thing in the market, and do you see opportunities for APT satellites in let's say, working with some of the smaller maritime service providers, or otherwise, do you see any big differences in these two markets that relate to the level of consolidation of the service providers that are your customers?
Yeah, consolidation will occur definitely, and it is occurring with the Google and GE, Global Eagle. What happened for them. The constellation is already happened, but I believe if you're looking forward, there might be some business model change. Literally means that the satellite service provider could become IFC service provider directly, or satellite operator could step in to join the competition with the service provider. So that is probably a future trend from my estimation.
That makes sense. And I guess APT Satellite, my feeling is that you are more focused on the satellite operation capacity leasing, and you don't plan to go compete with your customers by, say, acquiring a maritime satcom service provider. Whereas we see other satellite operators, some of the big global ones, that say, well, we're going to go buy this service provider, and then we're competing with some of our customers. Is that a fair assumption that APT will continue to maintain this sort of satellite operator position in the market instead of trying to compete with their customers?
Yeah, this is a good question. Right now, we are still focused on satellite capacity leasing with some diversified services, including the satellite project consultancy, sorry, and also with some side services like gateway services, technical training, and some related services. So as to say, like the one we provided to PSN before for the satellite project consultancy services. And in addition to that, we are also looking at the service market, whether APT Satellite should become a service provider. Okay, this depends. We don't want to compete with our customer. This is for sure, and this is the principle of APT Satellite. Not only now, but also in the future. Even we later on jump into the satellite service market, we will try every means to avoid direct competition with our customer. So this is our core pillar.
Well, and I've moderated at least one webinar of APT Satellite and some of your customers, and I see the very close relationship that you have with them. So I think that's not surprising for me to hear that you plan to stay the path and not compete with your customers, as it were. So looking at your 2021 financial results, which were just released, I guess about 2 weeks ago, it was a pretty good year. Return to growth on the revenue side, about 4% revenue growth compared to 2020, and even better performance on the profit attributable to shareholders, about 13% growth in terms of profit. It would be interesting to get some highlights from you on 2021. What went well? What led to this kind of growth, and what do you see maybe for 2022 now that we're about 1/4 of the way through this year?
We all know that 2021 is a very difficult year for everybody. Okay, APT Satellite is among them as well. And what we did, since we cannot, visit customer and to help them to make a business analysis on a face-to-face meeting, but we frequently, keep connected with our customer through some virtual meetings, through some telephone calls, and in fact, we are keep a close connection with the customer. So, and this is one thing. And the other thing is, globally, you will see that gradually the market is climbing up from its bottom. And this is the fundamental issue for APT Satellite to grow slightly of its revenue and profit margin. Okay, and thirdly, since we have provided very good packaged service, especially for the MCPC, and even in the current trend of the international broadcaster reducing their channels, we are still growing our broadcasting business slightly, but this is already very good compared with other satellite operators. Most of the satellite operators has reduced, I would say significantly, the TV channels on their satellite. And on the second hand, our data services is also growing, and it involves two folds. One is domestic Chinese market is growing fast. You can also find the statistics in the in our financial announcement. And at the same time, we have also grown our business in international market. I would say we are well prepared to help other satellite operators when they have some problems, like AsiaSat. Once we learned that the AsiaSat has some, AsiaSat 3 has some technical problems, and then we immediately prepare qualified capacity and to provide them for use by their customer. But APT's practice is not to deal with the customer directly, but we established a mutual trust, mutual beneficial cooperation relationship with AsiaSat. So in that, it benefits both sides, both the satellite operator and APT Satellite and the customer. So this is the practice. And in addition, we also helped ChinaSat, when there's when one of their satellite is deorbited earlier than expected. So this is another opportunity for us. So we are prepared for every circumstances, that might happen. And this helped to drive our revenue up.
And I guess in a certain way, I mean, we talk about Asia Pacific having so many satellite operators and how it makes it challenging, and that makes it challenging. But in a certain way, I guess it can create opportunities because you have a lot of operators that have only a few satellites. And if one of those satellites has a problem, they need help. And if you're prepared to help, and if you're always, if you have some additional resources, then it can be an interesting region, I guess. It can have some opportunities. Yeah. I'm curious, you mentioned at the beginning of the previous answer that it's been, you've been doing more virtual meetings with customers, and it can be hard to visit with them. I know that APT, so you're based in Hong Kong, and Hong Kong rather strict with its lockdowns, but you also have an office in Dubai, I believe. And I'm just wondering, has the lockdown and has just the situation in Hong Kong, has that made the Dubai office more important? Have you put more emphasis on that, or is it just doesn't matter, same as it always has been, that Hong Kong is the main office and Dubai is a sales office kind of?
You're right. We have a Dubai office, but in addition to the Dubai office, we have, of course, an office in Beijing. We have an office in Jakarta. We have an office in Malaysia as well. So okay. All these offices helped a lot to keep our business growing. And of course, I agree with you that our Dubai office is a very efficient one. We have our, I'm very proud to have Thomas Antony located in Dubai, and he keep a close contact with our clients there. And this is very helpful, even in the most difficult times during the pandemic. And we are keeping close contact and dialogue with the customer. And in Indonesia, we are also growing our business, and we are keeping contact both virtually and physically through our local employees.
And that has been an amazing market to watch develop, Indonesia.
Sure.
It's incredible how much capacity is being used there. And I guess your guys' APSCC 5C satellite has a lot of some high throughput beams over Indonesia, right? So that would be a pretty big piece of capacity, I suppose.
Yeah. And that one is APSCC 5C is jointly owned by APT Satellite and Telesat. And right now, we nearly sold out this capacity. Most of them are in Indonesia, and a small amount is in Malaysia.
And that's a big satellite to sell out. So that's impressive. Yeah, that's impressive. And so looking a little bit more at your fleet, so it's a pretty new fleet. I have the table open here. So I see APSCC 5C, APSCC 6C, both about 4 years old. APSCC 6D is about 2 years old. APSCC 9 is about 7 years old. And then APSCC 7 is about 10 years old, right? So when looking at replacement satellites and future plans, I guess you don't need a replacement satellite very, very soon because, again, the fleet is quite new. But it would be good to get some understanding of what are the future expansion plans? Are there any satellites in the pipeline? I think I heard on an interview you did a couple of weeks ago that with via satellite that there was a satellite somewhere in the pipeline that is being planned. So it would be interesting to hear about in the future capacity plans.
Yeah, you're very right. We have a quite young fleet, and with the oldest only 10 years, and the design lifetime of APSCC 7 is more or less 19 years. So we still have sufficient time to consider the replacement. And all the other 4 satellites are very young. So that means we do not have immediate demand on a replacement. But of course, we want to grow our business since, among the satellite operators, we may be the one who have the most bank deposit. We have more than 1 billion Hong Kong dollars deposit in the bank, but do not know how to use it. So
that's a good problem to have.
Yeah, and in the next few years, we will only see some money coming in, but investment is scarce. It's little. So we are also looking for some new opportunities, whether to have a CondoSat or to have some other new genius idea. So we welcome the ideas of our potential partner and to see whether we can explore the market, the industry furthermore. So this is the thing. Technically, we are constrained by the orbital slot as well. We have only 4 orbital slots, and the orbital slot is more or less fully occupied, both in C-band, Ku band, or even in Ka band. So in order to further expand our fleet, we need to find new and good orbital slots. So this could be an opportunity to work hand in hand with other satellite, industry stakeholders.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. A CondoSat with someone else that may have an orbital slot that would be useful. That's an interesting point. So I want to dig a little bit more into a couple of topics that you mentioned earlier. So you talked about APT Satellite providing kind of consulting services and other training and this kind of thing for newer satellite operators, let's say. And we talked about the APSCC 6D satellite being kind of shared with APT Mobile Satcom Shenzhen. So I'm wondering if you could tell us a little bit more about the relationship that you have with APT Mobile Satcom Shenzhen. I believe you do some kind of consulting and training services with them. So it would be interesting to get a little bit more information about, how does that relationship work, and is there anything that we should be looking forward to in the future there?
Yeah, APT Satellite, APT Mobile Satcom is a company established, with APT as a bigger shareholder. And APT is still, holding the chairman's position of APT Mobile Satcom. And we provide in-orbit delivery services for APSCC project. And we are also providing, the telemetry, telecontrol, and telecommand of the satellite, TT&C. We are also help to train their technicians how to operate the satellite and how to provide technical service to their clients. And so far, all the technical issues is under, under contract between us and APT, for the consultancy service. This is the framework. And probably they are looking for some new satellite, new opportunities, depends on the orbital slot, depending on the business plan of APT Mobile Satcom. I cannot share too much information, but certainly this cooperation will continue, will be carried forward. In addition, we are also helping APT Mobile Satcom for the operation of their gateway station located outside of mainland China. Okay, so and it depends probably on the marketing side. We can also help. Domestically, they can sell capacities to ChinaSat. Internationally, APT Satellite for sure is a channel for APT Mobile Satcom, and we already did some contract for APT Mobile Satcom to help to promote the capacity overseas.
That sounds like a good relationship. You're very close geographically, probably less than 30 kilometers, I guess, between Taipo and Nanshan, but you have these two. They're in the mainland, and they have better, maybe easier access to the mainland market, and you're outside, and you have easier access to the outside market, and so you have this interesting, mutually beneficial, win-win cooperation. I guess we could say this sounds like a good collaboration. One other point, I guess, partly related to APT Shenzhen. So you mentioned earlier, I believe the phrase you used is you still have the director position at APT Shenzhen, which I suppose was Mr. Cheng Guangran until recently, who was the I believe CEO of APT Hong Kong, and then the chairman of APT Shenzhen, or some similar to. But you've recently announced a new CEO in APT Hong Kong, Mr. Wang Hongbin, I believe. So if you are able to discuss a little bit those updates, that would be interesting to hear any more information about the new leadership.
Right. According to our official announcement, APT Satellite now will have Mr. Wang Hongbin as our new CEO starting from 31st of March. And Mr. Wang Hongbin is a very experienced expert in the industry with over 30 years of working experience. Starting from the early 90s up to now, and we had been colleagues since 2003. Okay, and he's from China Satcom, and he used to be the vice president of China Satcom, for several years already, for marketing and sales. And before that, he's the president of Sino Satellite Communications. Okay, and you know that I'm also from SinoSat before, so we are working together for many years. And now I'm happy to have him to be the new CEO of APT Satellite as well. And Mr. Cheng will be, how to say, he will be still assisting Wang Hongbin for some time, and until official retirement. Okay.
I see. Well, and of course we we're all very grateful for all of the contributions from Mr. Chung during his career, and I remember APSCC awarded him the Asia Satellite Executive of the Year in I guess 2018, I think, in Tokyo, right? That was the conference. Yeah, should be, because 2019 was Bangkok, so yeah, 2018 I think was so.
Yeah, that one was in held in Japan. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So that's hopefully, we can see Mr. Chung at a few more APSCC conferences in the future. But it's also an exciting time to hear about the new leadership. So that's cool. So just a couple of last topics. So one of the interesting updates I read about APT Satellite last year, there were the really bad flooding in Henan province in central China, and this it seemed to involve a lot of different space companies providing assistance. So we saw several Chinese commercial remote sensing companies publishing some images of different areas of Henan and trying to help the local authorities to understand where the flooding was happening. But then I also saw APT Satellite provided some emergency connectivity to Henan for these floods. And it seems in China right now, this is a big growth area for satcom, this kind of making the network more resilient, because obviously the terrestrial network in China is very, very developed, but in certain cases, like very bad flooding, it could have problems. So is this a big market for APT Satellite? Could you tell us a little bit more about how that market works for you in mainland China?
Of course, the emergency service or disaster relief is one of the most important field for the satellite industry, not only for APT Satellite, I'm pretty sure, also for other satellite operators. We remember very well, it has been for a few decades that we are contributing to the emergency service in mainland China and even overseas, in Philippines and Indonesia, and in case of necessary. So, for example, in the Sichuan earthquake in
2008, maybe?
Around 2008, we contributed a lot to help people, with the disaster relief. And also, we helped China Mobile to build up a dedicated network to fight against the disaster. That is called the Super Base Station Project, which means the base station of the mobile network is very resilient to the disaster, even be it an earthquake or a flood or some others. Okay, and we all keep providing services to the originally Department and the Ministry of Information Technology, and now it's a dedicated Ministry for Emergency Service. We keep working closely with them, and sometimes from also in cooperation with AsiaSat. So this business will become more and more important, because you cannot replace satellite with other infrastructure. Satellite play a key role in the disaster relief. I believe in the future, the importance will become more and more significant.
Oh, definitely. And I think I was not in China in 2008, but I guess the terrestrial network back then was not so developed. And so the expectation for data in a disaster was much less. Whereas now you have so much stuff in China, I think, is built on this very good terrestrial network that, like all the Meituan drivers, for example, if they could not have internet on their phone, this creates big problems for food delivery. And a lot of people rely on food delivery, right? So, and in 2008, I guess that wasn't really, it's becoming more important, it sounds like, as the world becomes more networked and as everything becomes more reliant on the internet, it's, we need to have connectivity.
And this is also true for international customers. We have one of our biggest customer has experienced fiber cut almost every year and several times a year. And it's a big fiber cut. So every time we receive the request, and we immediately, provide the capacity ready for them to use. And this helped them a lot, and also helped us to grow our revenue. So this is also a win-win. I don't want to name who is the biggest customer there, but due to this, we further tightened our relationship with the customer. So disaster relief, although the revenue portion is small, but the importance is really, really big.
Definitely. So, so my two last questions here. So you mentioned earlier that APT is currently, you have $1 billion Hong Kong dollars in the bank, and you're looking for places to invest it. And I saw at the end of last year, so December, there was an announcement of a round of funding into Mangata Networks, LEO constellation project, including the regional operator KTSat was investing. And we've seen other, I think, regional operators make some selective investments into constellation projects. Do you see that at all as an opportunity for APT Satellite to deploy some of this capital to invest in some of these, let's say, smaller scale constellation projects, or is that a little bit tricky to imagine?
Our position is still wait and see. We are still holding the wait and see position. Of course, we are also approached by several operators who has a constellation project. But we have our own, strategy, how to do that. Probably if in the future that we jump into the direct service provision business, then we can consider how to incorporate the constellation, be it LEO or MEO or even some other services into our package service. But so far, we do not have the intention to join any of this constellation program. So that is pretty clear. We are a small satellite operator, and we do not have our main markets. And in Asia, everybody knows that it is a fragmented market and heavily regulated. Therefore, the landing rights and some national security concerns and blah, 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 you can list a lot of these issues, could block the entry of this constellation, And among them, for example, a dedicated gateway is inevitable for each country to access these services. But technically, this is very difficult to have. So we will see what we will do for the next.
And I mean, really, the difficulties with LEO are not, Asia is probably the most tricky market. You have many different countries, but it's not even limited to Asia. We saw, was it last week, France took away the landing rights of Starlink, right? So yes, I think the constellations are much less straightforward than some people are saying. So yes, I think it's wait and see is quite sensible in that way. So I guess last question. So as we know, with these 2 years in Hong Kong, it's been a little bit tricky to attend conferences outside, but we have in a couple of months the Asia Tech X Singapore, formerly known as Communicasia. And it seems like that's going to be a pretty big show. I've spoken with some people from the US and from Europe who are planning to make the trip. Is APT planning on, will we see you in Singapore, I guess, APT?
Yeah. After 2 years of lockdown, everybody is tired of that. And we are also hoping to make use of this relaxation opportunity to meet more customers and to get more opportunities to grow our business. So this year we will participate the CAPSAT and Connect Asia or Connect Tech. I'm not very sure of the name.
It's something, yeah.
Yes. So we will attend both of these shows, and this is important representing a Middle East market and Asia, Southeast Asia market. Yes, and we will have our booth there. But actually, even in 2021, we are already show up in CAPSAT with a small booth there. So this year we will continue with that. We will send our employees there from overseas and from Hong Kong. Although the delegation will be smaller because of the still we have some travel restrictions and quarantine requirements. You need to first book hotels, before you travel abroad. I mean, booking the hotel in Hong Kong for the quarantine before you went abroad. So that's quite difficult, and the cost is also high.
Yeah, that's a good point. If you have a team of people and they come back and do quarantine hotel, that adds up fast, the cost. I mean, that's okay. Well, Mr. Huang, we've covered a lot today. We talked about mobility a little bit. We talked about APT's recent financial results, the new CEO, your relationship with APT Mobile Satcom Shenzhen, and a few other topics. So really appreciate your time and insights about many different areas of the industry. And looking forward to catching up in person sometime sooner rather than later. So thanks very much, Mr. Huang, for your time. And any other last points you'd like to mention, or anything else that you feel we did not cover?
Thank you very much for your time. And also, I'd like to thank APSCC for giving me the opportunity for the interview. And we are looking forward to seeing you soon.
Great. Well, this has been another episode of the APSCC webinar series, and this is a special Fireside Chat edition with the different Hong Kong satellite operators. So thank you very much, Mr. Huang, and looking forward to talking soon. Have a good rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye-bye.